Hey everyone, this is Kevin from Kevin's Microfleet. Today I'm coming to you with a Micro Galaxy Squadron review. We're going to be taking a look at the Series 4 Light Armor Class Rare, the Royal Guard TIE Interceptor. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at the vehicle, at the figure, at the packaging. We'll do some measurements and we'll do a comparison. Let's go ahead and dive into the review. So let's go ahead and start with the packaging. So here is what the front of the box looks like. So you get a chance to see the rare one of 15,000. You get a picture of the TIE Interceptor being on this little stand that it has. You get a chance to see the figure. It says Royal Guard TIE Interceptor here at the bottom, number 81. As we turn this thing around, you get a chance to see the back here, which does show some of what this does. It's got this little engine flap that comes down, the pilot goes in, that's basically it. Then you get a chance to see the other vehicles that come here in this class. So now as we flip this around, we get a chance to see the card on this side. You can see now you've got a couple X-Wings, a couple of the Interceptors there, the Imperial Shuttle, Death Star 2 in the background, and that is that. As we take this thing out of here, you get a chance to see here on the bottom, here is the little insert that it has. It's just the same picture from the card backing, but now you get a chance to see the bottom of it. And you get to see a couple more of the Interceptors in there. As you flip this around, you get a chance to see the UPC. All the UPCs are the same for this class, so it doesn't really matter whether or not you have one or the other, but there it is if you wanted that. So let's go ahead and break this thing out of the packaging, and then we'll go ahead and take a deeper dive into it. So now we've got it out of the box, so we can go ahead and take a look here first at the figure. And this figure is really the thing I think that makes this vehicle for me. The figure is really, really nice. They did a great job here with the paint detail of getting the gray flight suit and the black helmet. They've got the Imperial cog there on the side. This one's just a little bit messed up. You've got the little pinstriping that goes down the side of the uniform, which is really cool. And then on the top of the helmet, I mean, this figure looks really, really nice. A huge step up from what we had in Series 1. And I do want to show that actually. So here is the TIE Fighter that we got in Series 1. So not bad. I mean, the mold is, or the sculpt looks really nice, but you can see it's just got the two little white dots on the top of the helmet. And it's got the, just a little bit of color there on the chest plate. So then what happened is we went to Series 3 and we got this helmet. So now it actually has the Imperial cog on it, which looks really, really nice, especially on a figure that's this small. To have that detail is pretty impressive. And then with the Royal Guard, to be able to also put those little lines on there as well and the pinstriping on the uniform looks really, really cool. Very impressed. Now, this guy comes in at 1 inch tall, as all of the other figures do in this line. So here we go. There he is right at 1 inch. So now let's go ahead and dive into the actual vehicle itself. So here it is. You can see it's on its little stand, which is a really clever way to be able to display this TIE Interceptor, to be able to have it on top of this little stand that they had. So there's a little groove cut in there. So you can see as I insert this thing on there, it just kind of slides right in, and it sits kind of loose on it, which it doesn't really make that big of a difference as you have this sitting down on the table, which looks really cool. Now in the background there, you can see I actually have a 3D printed TIE Interceptor hanger that I've designed that I use for my displays, which is pretty cool. And then this one over here is actually a design from another company, and that's actually 3D printed TIE Interceptor we're going to look at here in a little bit. So let's go ahead and take a look at the vehicle itself here. Now, I've got to say, on the camera here, this comes out much better in terms of the color than it actually does in hand. So in hand, all of the red on here is just the red plastic. So instead of having it in this like grayish blue color over here, it's all red. And then the black part here is painted on, as well as the little details that they have here on the side and on the guns are all painted as well, which looks really nice. All of the painted parts of it look really nice. The actual red parts don't really look that great. I mean, I would say this is the first one where I would say from a chaser rare perspective, I am just not that crazy about it. Now, you can see here on the fin how it's got that little blending there, or like a little bleed over of the color, and so it just doesn't look as good as I would have hoped for it to look. Now, when you open the cockpit as well, you can see everything on the inside of the cockpit is red also. So when you actually look at this from the front, you would expect to see that inside here, it's a little bit darker than what it would be if you were looking on the outside. Kind of like you would see with this Interceptor over here, that the inside of the cockpit is dark. Well, with this one, because it's red like that, even if you close the top, you can still see the red right through the window, which is a little bit disappointing. I wish they had colored that or done a different color on the interior of the cockpit with this little piece that's inside of the window, just so that it adds a little more depth to it, because now it really does look like it's just a red plastic Interceptor. That's all it is. Now, when you open the cockpit, I do like that they've got this transparent plastic roof on it. Looks really good. You get this little feature here, which is nice, where you pull that back and you get a chance to see some of the inner workings of the engine. And then there's a little hole in there, so some negative space, and you can clip that thing back in there. This does also, on the bottom of it, have the pilot ejector. So you can push down on that. That kicks the seat up on the interior and knocks the pilot out if you wanted to. And then on this one also, the wings do come off, just like they would on the other Interceptor. I'm not really going to pop them off. I don't really feel like it. But they do have the same type of mechanism as the regular Interceptor, where you can only put the wings on one side. So you can't really mess it up in terms of how it's on there. So that is the Interceptor. So let's do some measurements really quick, and then we'll go ahead and compare this to a couple other models. So if you're looking at this from side to side, this is about 3.5 inches from front to back. To the end of the gun there, it's about almost 5 inches. And then top to bottom, we'll call that 3.5-ish as well. So overall, when you look at this relative to some of the other vehicles, like the TIE Fighter, the cockpit on this is bigger than the TIE Fighter. The scale is definitely not the same as the Series 1 or Series 2 TIE Fighter, which kind of is what it is. I'm not that concerned about it, because to me, as long as the vehicles are somewhat scaled relative to what they should be, that's okay. I'm not that concerned about it being perfect. So let's look at this one compared to just your standard Series 3 TIE Interceptor, Series 4 TIE Interceptor. And you can see here that the molds again are going to be the exact same. As we turn this to the side, no real difference, obviously just the paint difference. And then here it is from the back. So I wanted to also compare this to the TIE Interceptor from Action Fleet. So this would be the next one up in terms of something to compare it to. And so here is what it looks like compared to one another. And you can see that the Action Fleet one, the cockpit is much, much bigger. The wingspan from side to side is actually not that different. So that's the thing that kind of makes it look a little bit odd, that the wings are so big. And then if you look at it from this view, from the side here, you can see that the wings are very similar from front to back. Now, I don't know how far out of scale the Action Fleet one is. Again, I'm not a scale expert. If you wanted to get some information on that, you can take a look at my friend Jonathan's page, rebelscale.com, and he'll have a chance to be able to see how all of these are actually scaled. But the Action Fleet one does have a couple other features that the Micro Galaxy one doesn't. Now, I still do like the Micro Galaxy one, and I need 2 of these to be able to flank my Vader in one of my displays. So I will get some more of these, but I think having it painted individually probably is going to look a little bit better than getting a bunch of these. Now, I have this other 3D printed one in the background because of the actual scale. So this 3D printed version, this is one that I 3D printed myself. I got the file from somebody online. And this is an actual 1/72 scale Royal Guard Interceptor. So you can see the difference. Obviously, 1/72 would be essentially like if you had a 6-foot figure, it'd be going based off of that as being 1 inch tall. And so you can see that the wingspan, again, is about the same. It's maybe a little wider on our 1/72 scale. The wings are just a smidge, like a tiny bit shorter. And from a height perspective, they're about the exact same size. Now, obviously with this 3D printed one, you've got these extra little fins that come on it that are 3D printed and glued on. And so that is what it is. Now, with a 3D printed model, this is a resin print, so the quality of this is going to be extremely high relative to what you would normally get out of, you know, anything else, or even what we're going to get with the injected molded plastic that you're getting with this vehicle. So now I want to go ahead and again take a look at this guy compared to some other Microgalaxy Squadron vehicles. So here's the Interceptor compared to a Series 1 TIE Fighter, which the Series 1 and Series 2 TIE Fighters are the same size. They just have a little bit, some slight differences. And so you can see the difference here in the size of the cockpit. The cockpit's much bigger on the Interceptor than it is on the Series 1 TIE. And then again, if you look at it from a side perspective, the Interceptor looks much bigger than the TIE Fighter. Again, I don't know scale, but my assumption was that the TIE Interceptor was similar to maybe slightly smaller in terms of, you know, total size, but is what it is. And then you've got it next to your Series 1 X-Wing. So there you can see again the size comparison for them. Now again, I would say this is still a really cool vehicle. You know, if you're a big time collector, I would highly recommend grabbing these. I think that they're awesome. If you're not as deep into it, I would say maybe not. Or if you're really good at customizing, you could probably end up getting your standard version and customizing it to look very similar or maybe even slightly better. So I'm going to go ahead and just throw the pilot in here just for fun so we can see what it looks like. And so the great thing about this, you can see in there, it's got that little clip for his feet, which is such an awesome feature that they did. They now put in all of their vehicles. This is going to be a bit of a challenge for me to do just because it's so small. I'll have to do that off screen. Give me 1 second. Okay, so now I got him in there. It took a few minutes for me to get him in there. So I'm probably going to have to get some tweezers to try to push him down all the way. But you can see there he is inside the cockpit with his feet around that little hook, which is nice. And then when you close this, now it does look a little bit better on the interior where it's just a little darker, which is what you would expect to see when you're looking inside of a cockpit. So that is that. Thank you for tuning in for the review. There are some Amazon affiliate links that are down in the description below for Microgalaxy Squadron vehicles, tons of them. You know, and then there's also a link to a Facebook group that I run with some friends from all over the world. I have an Etsy page too. If you want to try to grab one of those Interceptor hangers, you can certainly check that out. And thanks for tuning in. I will catch everybody on the next review.